So let me just warm up. So let me just roll the TNT. We got tangents and trivia. It's TNT, baby.
There was a guy that walked out to this thing. So I've got to show you this music. Right? This guy walked out, and this was his theme song.
Literally.
This was what he walked out into a boxing ring, yeah?
He steps out into this.
So he's walked out to that, right? I don't even know who he's fighting. I want him to lose that fight. I want to see him get punched in the face.
I thought that was really decent, to be honest.
That was a deep tune, wasn't it? It really is a thinker. It's lyrical.
I mean, like I said to you before, mate, my music taste is very dynamic. Yeah. It depends on how I feel. That got me hyped up.
What moment are you listening to that in when you're about to go on a murder rampage? When you're about to go and do some kiddie fiddling. No, I'm getting out of the line here. But what my point is, so he walked out to that, right? And then his opponent walked out to James Brown. I can't remember the James Brown song, but it was kind of relevant. Like, it was something like, "Oh, gonna get on up, punch you in the face," or something like that. Yeah. So instantly, I'm rooting for the other guy, and I think the knobhead lost. To be honest with you,
did you actually lose?
But anyway, so you've seen what I'm on about. You see where I'm coming from. What would your fighting song be?
What would my fighting song be? That's actually a really, really good question. Wow.
So this is for anybody that doesn't do sports. When you're when you're like a boxer or I think even in UFC, wrestling and that, they'll have a song. It's almost their theme tune. So this song will play as they walk into the ring.
I'll probably want to come out to vibes, man. I think I'd probably come out to something like Rick James, "Give It To Me," you know?
Yeah, give it to...
Yeah, because that's how I'd like to step into the ring. Like, yeah. I'd be smooth. I'd be like an eel in there, man. I'd be like, "Give it to me." I'd just be
funky stuff.
Just
give it to me.
That's
give
it.
it to me.
But you know, because that's the thing. Obviously, like, you know, I do Thai boxing, I do boxing, and I think when my coach plays like really relaxed music or like funky vibey music, it's almost like you find rhythms. Like, fighting is a rhythm.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a choreographed twitchy dance to an extent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think stuff like I love that song, and I really, really kind of like get into the beat of it. Yeah, I just love it. So I think, I'd come out to that, because I'd be on like...
That is a good shout. You came up with that quickly off the top of the head, and I actually rate that. That's a good shout. Give it to me, because you're almost like, you're going, come on, give it to me.
Yeah, because it's right. You know, even at the start, like when it comes, it's like dum 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 dum, and it just like comes in like that, and then it just drops, and then mate, that is sick. That song is raw, man.
We got that somewhere here.
If you don't know about Rick James, you don't know about Give It To Me. Like, please just educate yourself.
We've touched on Rick James a few times because we were talking about, you showed me the Dave Chappelle Rick James impression.
I'm Rick James.
I'm Rick James. But I was just thinking what mine would be. I probably should have thought about this before. But yeah, I don't know exactly what song. Maybe a reggae song, and it's a similar vibes to what you're saying. Was like, you can come out to this dun 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 dun, dun absolute like bollocks. And that's just going to annoy me so much I'm going to want to punch you in the head.
Was that geezer who came out to that song, was he Northern?
I think he's from Bradford, so he's probably doing it because he's...
Yeah. Do you reckon it was like a promo thing?
Yeah, because but they're big up there.
Yeah.
And Bradford, I'm sorry. Why? I don't know what it is about up north in dance music.
Are you saying anything? Are you going to say controversial stuff?
I was going to say something like, you need to sort yourself out with the music wise. If that's the best you have to offer, someone in Bradford must be making some better dance music. But then I just thought, up north tends to be 10, 20 years behind in the dance music, and that side of it absolutely terrible. But then you've got places like Nottingham that are listening to like this, quite big on the dubstep and bassline and stuff like that. And some of that stuff I quite like, to be honest. I make music that sounds like it was made 25 years ago, or I try to anyway. So there's nothing wrong with that. But what I have noticed, up north, dance music wise, it tends to be a bit like, 10, 20 years too late. I mean, that should have never come out in the first place at any time. But then you've got like the rock side of thing. I don't think there's been a better like rock indie band, whatever you want to call it, than to come out of the UK since Arctic Monkeys, and they're from Sheffield.
Fair enough. Obviously, it's not my scope of expertise.
Thing,
so I'm just gonna have to just give you a nod on that one.
And
just be like, I'm gonna leave this to the people listening, and
I get where you're.
So that's what Sam said, by the way.
my controversial music
Yeah.
things. I don't mean it any offence to any of the people, but I mean those guys. Christ Almighty, they just look at themselves like I think some of them have kids, and they've got their kids coming to the raves and stuff. I mean that's nice. Like if they all love it, then fair enough. But,
Yeah.
oh my god, it makes me cringe.
I think it's the purpose of music, isn't it? You know, if it makes people happy, if it gets people on a vibe, that's all people care about.
Yeah, but that's
now.
the vibes that they're obviously looking for. And I think the similar thing to what you're saying. Like I want to come out to something like reggae, like probably something off of Exodus, Bob Marley album.
Oh, okay.
You know that Max Romeo song, I'm gonna send him to outer space.
Oh yeah.
Something like that, but because I just think like reggae is such a, it's like the rhythm of life, isn't it? It's,
do you know what we're on that?
Your heartbeat.
Someone actually said to me in the barbershop that they would think, they would say that Bob Marley was the most influential artist ever.
Yeah, maybe because.
What do you think to that statement?
In terms of music or just culturally, like I don't know.
Think just like take it as the whole thing, because obviously he was like, what artist would you say? Was that picked up?
Yeah, probably a little bit, but
what artist would you say was the most influential? And he was like, to be honest with you, I'd probably double down on Bob Marley. And then when he gave his, because like I said, think about like influence as a whole. So yeah, cultural, musically, everything. Like, who would you say for you would be that? Because I think I agree. Like from his reason, and I was like, you know what, fair enough. I didn't really have too much to say.
The thing that my uncle's motto for life was, if you don't like reggae, you'll see you next Tuesday. That was basically his motto. And I can't agree with him more there. And Bob Marley is the most well-known reggae artist ever, and probably the best in terms of like he can sing amazing.
Yeah.
And let's just put it this way: I love reggae. I love all music that comes from Jamaica. Like I love dancehall. I love
Do you like dancehall? I never heard you listen to dancehall.
I've got a little collection going on.
Sheesh, wind up your waist, bad boy.
I'll show you. I've made dancehall beats and stuff as well. I've had a couple of people ask me to get some local artists on it. I was like, anyway, but what I was gonna say is so everybody knows Bob Marley. He's probably the most popular thing. And he's probably one of the best in terms of singing voice. A lot of reggae artists have terrible singing voices, but it's more about the vibe.
Yeah.
But because I'm deep into the music thing, I know that whoever produced the first few tracks of kind of basically, do you know who Lee Perry is? Lee Scratch Perry.
Yeah,
he kind of handed that sound to Bob Marley a little bit. Yeah. And helped him kind of create his sound.
Yeah, cultivate.
But if you're talking artist and influential as in like people know who he is and have been influenced by him directly, then Lee Perry. But if you want to go real deep about it and his music specifically, then Lee Perry.
Fair enough.
Lee Perry showed him the way. Lee Perry gave him the reggae.
Fair enough.
And in the words of Lee Perry. I don't know how much truth there is to that. you can hear it. He recorded the first few Bob Marley songs and gave him the reggae, and then he moved on and did the dub. 70s was such a good time for music. I can't even begin to describe to you.
What would you say was like your most favourite? Because obviously, in terms of like the study of music, and your use of music every day is far different to mine, and your knowledge is far more extensive as it should be for what you do with music. What would you say your most favourite period of music was? Obviously, you just mentioned 70s.
It's got to be either the 70s or the 90s, like 93 to 90. Well, 93 to the end of the 90s kind of thing. So I'll give you the context. 70s music. No, it has to be the 70s, and I'll tell you why. Everybody back then, there was no easy way to make music, Yeah. You didn't have drum machines. That happened in the 80s, I think, and that's why the 80s music, a lot of it sounds so dated and terrible. Because it's cheaper to get a drum machine than it is to hire a session musician to be a drum machine. So the only way you're making good music in the 70s is by being ridiculously talented. And you got James Brown, you got Sly and the Family Stone, and this massive like funky band thing going on. You've got obviously the Beatles, and that happened in the late 60s, and Jimi Hendrix, one of my favourites. But then the 70s, everybody been inspired by those guys. So you've got Black Sabbath. You've got all the funky things going on, as I was mentioning. And what you'll find is all the stuff that people are making the songs out of in the 90s that I like. So what I'm talking about there is hip hop, jungle, and maybe like garage and all the stuff that's come off the back of those genres in the UK. They're all sampling the songs from the 70s. All the jungle drum breaks that you're hearing in your favourite jungle songs are people getting a drum break from a James Brown song. So a drum break is where the song, all the music stops other than just the drums, and you just have a
Yeah.
and it's called a break because it's a break in the song where it's just the drums. So you got all the really famous ones like the funky drummer break, but in the James Brown song, or the Hot Pants break in the song Hot Pants. The Amen Brother break. Everyone calls it the Amen break, but it's from some really cool song. Probably like an obscure B-side. Yeah. But it ended up being the most sampled thing. If I showed you it now, insert the drum break here.
Where?
But that's what I'm saying.
I'm
so
joking,
people will hear it and they go, "Oh my god, I've heard that a million times." That's what jungle sounds like. Or hip hop. So in hip hop, they just do it the normal kind of speed. Get some samples of one song and then get the drum break from another song. And what would actually happen at the beginning of hip hop is people will just get 2 copies of those songs with the drum breaks and go boom, 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 cue up the next one, boom, boom, and just keep on going back and forth and rewinding it back to that drum break. Grandmaster Flash and all those guys in New York that was pioneering hip hop and stuff. Yeah. Break dancers. That's why they're called break dancers, because they're dancing to the break. In these songs.
I never knew that. Yeah. Really?
And then hip hop obviously come from that. So hip hop, you had the music, the DJ and the MC, and you had the dancers and you had the graffiti and stuff, didn't you? The 4 cornerstones of hip hop. But those drum breaks, those same drum breaks that were used in hip hop in America, people in the UK were like, okay, how do we add some more, people, the acid house movement was happening in like 89, 90, whenever that was happening.
Why is that called the acid house, by the way? What was that? Was it just...
I imagine it's because of how futuristic the sounds was, and maybe people were taking certain things. But, and amongst other things. But, so you had that happening, that was like a very white guy thing to be saying. And then you've got like people that were into the more black music. Yeah. So people that are into funk from the 70s, maybe a bit into the 80s. Yeah. And then people coming over from Jamaica in London and Bristol and stuff like that are bringing all over these Jamaican records. Yeah. And then that's where it went from being acid house or hardcore, where hardcore was when you suddenly get in a bit of these, where the white guys go, let's get make the same kind of stuff, but let's get these drum breaks in there. Yeah. And what you'd actually do is you'd record the drum break into your sampler that only had 8 seconds or 9 seconds worth of sample time, and obviously you want to make as much time, so you record it in as fast as your record player could play it, because you've got different speeds on there, so you speed it up as fast as you can, record it in loads, and then you just pitch it back down or speed it back down on the actual sampler, so you're not using up the sample time. And that's why you hear all this stuff and it's really like bad resolution probably, because they're speeding stuff up and they're slowing it down on something that probably only does like a certain resolution anyway. Wow. But that's why, so in acid house hardcore is kind of that 120, 130 BPM kind of housey kind of tempo. And then as it got into the jungle things, people would actually go, when you speed it up, actually, don't slow it all the way back down. Leave it a little bit there, like, and it sounds boom, boom, boom. That's just drum beat. That was boom, boom, yeah. That was on like a hip hop kind of style thing. And then you leave it sped up, and then go, actually, right, now get these soul records that we were making hip hop from the 70s by the likes of James Brown and all these other artists that were like coming from America, or you get all these Caribbean, like this Jamaican stuff, so you got all your like ragga samples, and that's why things started not being called acid house or hardcore. They started calling it jungle, because it was more, you got these drum breaks on it, rather than just being like a housey with the pianos and stuff on it. And then a bit of a drum break here and there. It was more focusing on the drum break, maybe a bit faster, and then instead of having the bum bum blam plinky plonk blink pianos, you're getting these sounds from Jamaica and South America and stuff like that, and that's why it's called jungle or something else. And then as they stopped using that about 96, 97, you weren't doing that anymore, and then they were speeding it up even more to the fact that it was too busy to have all these samples and the drum breaks in it. So that's why it started being called drum and bass, I think, because it was literally just, now get rid of all the instrumentation and stuff and just go and like fart noises and stuff, which there's a time and a place for that. But then garage became that thing. So you can hear some really cool garage stuff where they're actually sampling all the like R&B acapellas
Yeah.
from like, you know, in like probably 90s or whatever, you've got like SWV.
Yeah.
You know,
SWV would kill them.
like but with all the harmonies and stuff like that, and then sampling little bits of the same. So all your snares and stuff like that, you'll be sampling from the same drum breaks because it's really good recordings that you can kind of mutate and jigsaw back together.
Yeah.
With the vocals from an SWV song, and then maybe some like ravey piano stabs or some different kind of plinky plonkies or whatever.
Some plinky plonkies.
But then and then that side got a little bit
Plinky
more
plonky
bassy.
podcast.
Yeah, plinky plonky. So that's a good one.
Plinky plonky.
But yeah, like music's just mad. I love. Obviously now when I'm making music, I do. I mean, people won't have heard it, but I do try and make stuff that's kind of based on that stuff that from the 70s that I liked and a bit into the 80s as well. But then I've also got all the stuff that I make that's on the 90s stuff. 90s was an amazing thing for. That's when electronic music came into its own, but it's all thanks to, in my opinion, the art of sampling the music from the 70s, which was coming from mainly America, soul and funk. But then a little bit of like the Jamaican stuff that's coming out, all these reggae samples and a bit of dancehall and stuff like that. Because obviously it's in the 90s, so they're getting some of the old records, some of the newer records. And obviously, in stuff like the 90s, they're putting the a cappella version, so just the vocals on the dancehall track, so you can actually easily sample just the vocal without having all these messy bits to chop around. It's hard to for me to really explain it until you've actually sat there and done it. But
of course.
you can't just go, oh, here's a record. Mute the drums. No, you can't do that.
Have you seen Kanye's new speaker?
He's got his own speakers now.
Yeah, I think he brought out like a speaker where it kind of is obviously brought in with the whole idea to change your listening experience, and it's probably like one of the best speakers for you.
Shaped like a dildo, so you can shove it up your ass with the vibrations.
Nah, it's like it's almost like an egg, but what it has is it has like 4 different lights on it, and you can literally drop the drums out and listen to that, or you can drop the vocals out and listen to that.
Yeah, so the music must have a, because there's software now where it will so you know you see, have you ever seen like a WAV file?
Yes.
So that's basically like, it's like a visual it gives you a visual representation of the beat, so when it gets really loud you can see like the spike. It's like if you have everything the same thing, it tends to look like a bit of a sausage or whatever. But then most songs, it's called dynamics, so it can go really loud and really quiet and stuff, so you see this like spiky cloud thing. What you can get software now that it will pick up on where the transients are, so that's where it peaks really loudly, so that's going to be your kicks and your snares, so your drums are going to be peaking a bit louder, be the spikiest parts, so you can get stuff that kind of gets rid of that, and you can get stuff that will either just give you the drums or just cut the drums out and give you everything else. So I don't know how that does that. I don't know the technicality behind being able to actually mute the drums.
But yeah, it's weird. It's
whether
like,
it's just the same thing I'm talking about, or whether people are giving you, okay, you want to listen to that song and be able to do that, but here the artist has had to give that company the 4 layers. Do you get what I'm saying? Here's the 4 separate layers so people can do that. Like, I would have thought that's the only way of that being possible, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, man. I'll buy it for you for Christmas, or one of our lovely listeners.
You know what I'm going to do with that as well?
What's that?
I'm going to shove it up my ass. Oh, dear.
Yeah, one of our lovely listeners will gift it to us.
Yeah.
It's just...
Get sponsored. Kanye, give me a shout. I'm not going to wear your shoes because they're disgusting.
Oh, wow.
But, I'll wear some jackets and put your speakers up my ass. So,
what an episode, eh?
Yeah.
That's the highlight right
there. Yeah. I'm being serious now. If anybody wants to sponsor it, you know what I mean? Just give us a shout. That's how this is going to be lucrative, I think.
Yeah, it's like, obviously, you know, our first sponsor gets to decide our name. Whoa, that's a bit too deadly.
Yeah, but you can sponsor us, but there is no guarantee that I won't shove your product up my ass.
I'm trying to look for that plinky flonk.
I can't vouch for a product until I've thoroughly
felt it.
Yeah, kind of. No, not felt it, but just like tested it out.
Why has everything got to go up your bum for? What's that about?
Isn't that what everything's for?
Yeah, hey, it's TNT.
Yeah, if you need any models, just give me a shout.
Hey.
This man's a bit of a has-been.
That's it. No. I'm washed up, mate. I'm like, what is it, Ben Stiller and Zoolander? And you're like Hansel.
You've only got one
You
look.
actually are.
Well, are you saying? I actually love Owen Wilson. Where has that guy gone?
That's what I'm
He
going to
must
call
have
you.
just retired. He's just doing sofa adverts.
Mate, that's your name now. Man like
Owen
Hansel.
Wilson.
Man like
Hansel. You're pretty good at coming up with nicknames, isn't it? I'm a bit jealous of that. I've always wanted a nickname, and now I've finally got given one.
Yeah, Hansel, man.
Hansel. Yeah. Oh god, that was such a classic film. I think I've only got one look as well. It's this.
We got tangents and trivia. We got tangents. Naeem and Sammy be on TNT.